The family sold her for being lame, but the mountain man found the truth in her eyes. I clung to the splintered edge of the wagon seat as the wind screamed through the canyon like a banshee out for blood. Snow whipped across my face, stinging like 1,000 tiny knives, and the wheels groaned beneath us, threatening to snap on the jagged rocks. My uncle Harlan Voss gripped the reins with his gnarled hands, his breath fogging the air in harsh puffs. He hadn't spoken a word since we left the dusty outpost of Red Rock Gulch hours ago, but I knew what was coming. I'd known it for weeks, ever since he'd caught me limping worse than usual after a long day tending the meager garden back home. Useless, he'd snarled that night, his whiskey-soaked voice echoing through our ramshackle cabin. A lame girl ain't worth the feed she eats. And now, here we were, barreling into the heart of a blizzard on this god-forsaken trail, where the untamed Wild West swallowed folks whole without a trace. The wagon lurched as a gust nearly toppled us, and I bit back a cry, my right leg throbbing from the cold that seeped into the old brake like poison. It had happened when I was just 12. Harlan, in one of his rages, shoving me off the loft ladder because I dared question him about selling our last horse. The bone had set crooked, leaving me with this cursed limp that marked me as broken in everyone's eyes, including my own. My family, what was left of them after Ma died of the fever and Pa vanished in a mining claim gone bad, had tolerated me out of pity. But Harlan, my mother's brother and the self-proclaimed head of our sorry clan, saw me as a burden. He'd auctioned me off like a lame mare at market, trading me to some recluse up in these canyons for a pouch of silver and a promise to keep the family name clean. Amelia Hayes, reduced to chattel. The thought burned in my chest, hotter than the frost nipping at my fingers. Almost there, Harlan grunted finally, his eyes narrowed against the storm. He didn't look at me, never did unless it was to criticize. Beside him sat old Jeb Harlano, relation, just a grizzled wagon driver he'd hired for the haul, chewing on a wad of tobacco and muttering prayers under his breath. Jeb had eyed me pityingly back at the outpost, where a few locals had gathered to watch the spectacle. Poor thing, one woman had whispered to another, her voice carrying on the wind. Harlan's rid of her now. That mountain man's a ghost, folks say he don't take kindly to company. Their words had twisted in my gut, but I'd held my head high, refusing to let them see the fear clawing at me. The trail narrowed into a sheer drop on one side, the canyon walls rising like silent sentinels, and that's when the howls started. Low at first, then building into a chilling chorus that sent shivers down my spine, unrelated to the cold. Wolves, their eyes gleamed in the dim twilight, shadows circling the wagon like phantoms. Jeb cursed and cracked the whip, but the horses whinnied in terror, slowing to a halt as the pack closed in. Harlan snatched his rifle from under the seat, but his hands shook too much drink, too little nerve. Damn beasts, he spat, firing a wild shot that echoed off the rocks but hit nothing. That's when he appeared, out of the swirling white. A figure on horseback materialized like a legend from one of those dime novels the cowboys swapped around campfires. Tall and broad, wrapped in a buffalo hide coat dusted with snow, he rode straight toward us, his rifle already raised. The shot cracked through the air, precise and deadly, scattering the wolves with yelps of pain and fear. One fell twitching in the snow, and the rest bolted into the darkness. The man Wyatt Kane, I presumed, in his horse, his face half hidden by a wide-brimmed hat and a beard thick as sagebrush. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, swept over us like a hawk sizing up prey. "Yuvos," he called, his voice rough as gravel. carrying over the wind without effort. Harlan nodded, lowering his rifle but keeping a finger near the trigger. That's me. Brought the girl, like we agreed. Amelia Hayes. She's kin, but she's yours now for the price we settled. Wyatt's gaze shifted to me then, and I felt it like a physical weight. No pity there, no scorn, just a cool assessment that made my heart pound. I straightened as best I could, ignoring the ache in my leg, and met his eyes. They were storm grey, holding secrets I couldn't begin to guess, but in that moment, something flickered. Not kindness, exactly, but recognition, like he saw past the limp, past the ragged shawl and the fear I tried to hide. Harlan shoved a crumpled paper at him, the contract, I supposed, and Wyatt glanced at it before tucking it away. Get her things, Wyatt said flatly, dismounting with the ease of a man born to this wild land. Jeb hopped down to help, tossing my small bundle of few dresses, a quilt Ma had sewn, and a locket with her faded photograph into the snow at my feet. Harlan didn't even say goodbye. He just nodded at Wyatt, muttered something about good riddance, and cracked the reins. The wagon creaked away, vanishing into the blizzard as if I'd never existed, left alone with this stranger. I picked up my bundle, my limp more pronounced in the deep snow. The wind howled again, and I shivered, not just from the cold but from the uncertainty gnawing at me. What kind of man bought a woman sight unseen? Rumors from town painted him as a hermit, a former gunslinger who'd lost everything and retreated to these canyons to lick his wounds. Folks said he'd killed men in the border wars, that his cabin was a fortress against the world. But standing there, rifle slung over his shoulder, he didn't look like a monster. Just ... alone. Name's Wyatt Kane, he said, breaking the silence. You cumin or freezing? I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Amelia. And yes, I'm coming. My voice came out steadier than I felt, and I followed him up a narrow path carved into the canyon wall. Each step a battle against the pain shooting up my leg. The snow deepened, and twice I stumbled, catching myself before he could notice. But he did, of course he did. Without a word, he slowed his pace, matching mine until we reached a low-slung cabin nestled against the rock face. Smoke curled from the chimney, a beacon in the whiteout. Inside, the warmth hit me like a wave, the fire crackling in a stone hearth, chasing away the chill. The place was sparse, a rough-hewn table, a single chair, pelts on the floor, and shelves lined with traps and tins. It smelled of pine resin and smoked meat, a man's domain untouched by softness. Wyatt hung his coat and rifle by the door, revealing a faded shirt stretched over broad shoulders marked by old scars. He was older than me by maybe a decade, his face weathered by sun and sorrow, but there was a rugged handsomeness to him that caught me off guard. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair. I obeyed, my legs grateful for the rest, while he poured coffee from a pot on the stove. It was black and bitter, but I sipped it anyway, the heat spreading through me. Your uncle said you can work. That true? I met his eyes again, that flicker still there, pulling at something deep inside me. I can, cooking, mending, cleaning, whatever needs doing. My leg slows me, but it don't stop me. The words tumbled out, defensive, born from years of proving myself to folks who saw only the flaw. He studied me a moment longer, then nodded. Fair enough. But up here, it's not just chores. Storms like this one can kill quicker than a rattler. You pull your weight, or you don't last. His bluntness stung, but it was honest, no sugarcoating, like the pitying lies back in town. I thought of Ma then, her gentle hands teaching me to sew by candlelight, whispering that strength came from within, not from perfect limbs. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them away. I ain't afraid of hard living, Mr. Kane, just give me a chance. Wyatt, he corrected, his voice softening just a touch, and we'll see about that chance. As the night deepened, the blizzard raged outside, rattling the shutters like angry spirits. Wyatt busied himself with sharpening a knife, his movements efficient and silent. I watched him from the corner of my eye, wondering about the man beneath the gruff exterior. What had driven him here? Loss, maybe the kind that hollowed a soul. My heart ached with a strange empathy, even as fear lingered. Would he be kind, or just another Harlan in disguise? Sleep came fitfully in the loft he showed me to, a narrow space with a straw mattress and a quilt that smelled faintly of lavender rod for a mountain man. Dreams plagued me. Harlan's sneering face, wolves snapping at my heels, and Wyatt's eyes, searching mine for truths I wasn't ready to share. When dawn broke, pale and unforgiving, I rose early, determined to earn my keep. The snow had piled high, but I bundled up and headed out to the frozen creek for water, my limp carving uneven tracks in the drifts. Halfway there, the ice cracked under my boot, and I slipped, the bucket spilling into the current. Pain lanced through my leg, and I cursed under my breath, tears freezing on my cheeks. But I didn't quit. I refilled it, hauling it back step by painful step. Wyatt was chopping wood when I returned, his axe swinging in powerful arcs. He paused, watching me approach, and for the first time, a grudging respect glinted in his eyes. Stubborn one, ain't ya? Better stubborn than useless, I shot back, surprising myself with the fire in my voice. He chuckled, a low rumble that warmed the air between us. Reckon that's true. That evening, over a stew I'd thrown together from his store's venison, potatoes, and wild onions, he opened up a crack. Used to drive cattle down from Montana, he said, staring into the fire. Lost my wife to the fever on one of those trails. Buried her under a cottonwood, and ain't looked back since. His words hung heavy, laced with a grief that mirrored my own losses. I reached out, hesitating before touching his arm. I'm sorry. That kind of pain, it don't fade easy. He looked at me then, really looked, and something shifted. Not love not yet, but a spark, fragile and real, in the midst of this harsh world. But the storm wasn't done with us. As night fell again, a ferocious gust slammed the cabin, and I heard the roof groan like it was about to give. Wyatt cursed and grabbed his coat. Gotta shore it up before it caves. He stepped out into the white hell, and I watched from the window, heart in my throat, as he climbed the ladder. Then, a slip ice betraying him, and he teetered on the edge of the ravine below. No. I screamed, grabbing a rope from the wall and bursting out into the gale. My limp slowed me, each step a agony, but I tied the rope to the porch post and tossed it to him. He caught it just as he fell, dangling over the abyss. With every ounce of strength, I pulled, the wind tearing at me, my muscles burning. Inch by inch, he climbed back, collapsing beside me in the snow. Inside, as I bandaged his sprained arm by the fire. Our breaths mingling, he whispered, "You saved me, Amelia." "Why? Because maybe we're both worth saving," I replied, my voice trembling with emotions I couldn't name: fear, relief, and something deeper, like the first stirrings of trust in a man who'd seen my truth and hadn't turned away. Little did I know, that was just the beginning. Harlan's shadow loomed larger than the canyon itself, and the dangers ahead would test us in ways that could break us or bind us forever.